Thomas Jefferson once said, "The most valuable of talents is that of never using two words when one word will do." He was talking about concise communication, and that is the topic of our video. You want to be concise, not long-winded, because there are a lot of benefits to communicating concisely. First of all, it'll help you sound more like a leader almost instantly, because that's how leaders communicate. They have that nice, crisp sound. The second thing it'll do, it'll be more likely that people understand and follow what you're saying, and that's a big part of why we communicate in the first place. Another advantage is that we have a lot more influence when our communication is concise. The overall main point of this video is that concise communication makes you sound more confident. I'd like to share 3 tips with you on how you can be more concise in your very next conversation, meeting, and interaction. Now, the first tip is a phrase or a statement that I would like to teach you. You can say the statement out loud or you can say it in your head. And the statement is this: if I had to boil it down, I would say. And if you say this statement, this phrase, right before you share your actual message, it will train you into a habit of communicating concisely. So out loud, it would sound like this. You're in a meeting, people are talking, you're finally ready to say what you want to say. You give it some thought, and then you say out loud, if I had to boil it down, I would say, and then you share your actual message. Maybe your message is, I think that plan A has more advantages than plan B. And what this phrase does is it cues to you and to the people around you that you're about to bottom line it. You're about to be very concise. And so having said this, it really prompts you to be more concise. It also gives your brain time to think and time to crystallize that message. Now, you don't always have to say it out loud. In fact, many of the clients I've worked with, and even I use this tip myself, I simply say it in my head right before I share my message, and that cues me to be more synthesized and more concise. So I just say in my head, if I had to boil it down right now, I'd say, it sounds like what you're saying is you want to establish healthier boundaries between work and your home life. And by prompting your brain to think that way and just saying it in your head, that's called self-talk, that helps you be more concise when you finally do speak out loud. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is a little different. This is for everyday conversations at work and with other people. And in a conversation, the tip is this: you want to strive for short talking turns. That means when it's your turn to talk, you give about 1 or 2 sentences, and then in the conversation, you leave room for the other person to give their talking turn, their 1 or 2 sentences, or however long they talk. And by sticking to this discipline of 1 or 2 sentences per talking turn, you create a dialogue with the other person instead of a monologue. Monologues are really not okay in conversations. If you approach people and you talk at them for extended talking turns, a long time, a couple minutes straight, it's going to be a huge turnoff, and the next time they see you coming, they're likely to try to find a way out of that conversation. We all want a dialogue, and by limiting your talking turns to just 1 or 2 sentences, you will create that wonderful dialogue and exchange of ideas that everybody wants. And in fact, as an example, I would like to share with you some dialogue from a movie, from the old movie Rocky, the first one that won the Academy Award. The dialogue in this movie is outstanding, and you'll notice that there are really short talking turns between Adrian and Rocky in this scene right before Rocky's big fight. Rocky says, I can't do it. Adrian says, what? I can't beat him. Apollo? Yeah, I've been out there walking around and thinking, who am I kidding? I ain't even in this guy's league. What are you gonna do? I don't know. You work so hard. Yeah, but that don't matter because I was nobody before. Don't say that. So you'll notice in that conversation, there's lots of back and forth. Short talking turns is the way to get there. Now, of course, in a movie, this is not exactly real life because they're really working hard to pare the dialogue down. But it does give us an example of what a nice exchange looks like, because in movies, they know that people want dialogue, not monologue. And we should strive for the same kind of thing in our everyday conversations. So that's tip number 2, short talking turns. And the third tip I want to give you is for meetings, and that is create a communication plan before your meeting. Now what that means is that whatever value that you're supposed to offer at this meeting, whatever participation you have, beforehand you want to create some talking points so that you're really on point and on message during that meeting. And then once you're at the meeting, you stick to the plan. You resist the temptation to go on tangents and pull the meeting off track. Now, one of the things this will do is when you share your talking turn really concisely, it leaves room for a question and answer and follow-up, and you can flesh out some of the details during that Q&A. This is the way leaders do it. They come with a concise pitch, and then they have a dialogue after that pitch. The other thing you want to do is, if you're in charge of this meeting in any way, is to make sure you end on time every time. And this helps create the overall impression that you're concise. But it also gives you the self-discipline to know that if we're going to end on time, I really have to figure out what I want to say in advance. And so it's a kind of discipline that you can add to your meeting preparation. So those are the 3 tips for being more concise. In summary, concise communication makes you sound more confident. In terms of your homework, your next step, the action that I want you to take, I would like to think of the very next conversation or meeting you have on your calendar and use any of these 3 tips to be more concise during that interaction. And I'd like to finish with a quote from Dennis Roth. If it takes a lot of words to say what you have in mind, give it more thought. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.